Hey, so what's the story with the Song for Bill video? Well, as you can probably tell from the song and the video, it was very much inspired by an incident on James O'Brien's LBC phone-in show a couple of weeks ago now, in which a guy called Bill from Exmouth called in to express his regret at having voted for Brexit in the 2016 referendum, and indeed audibly bursts into tears in the course of doing so, much to James's evident distress. You've probably seen the clip because it went pretty viral more or less immediately, and I was inspired to write something about this, partly because I'm just always looking for stuff to write about, but also because if I can find stuff to write about which I think I can make entertaining, but which also means something to me, then so much the better. And as I'm sure you know, I've been pretty vocal and active in the pro-final deal vote, anti-Brexit movement for a couple of years now. Writing my column in the New European newspaper and attending and indeed occasionally hosting People's Vote rallies. I wanted, firstly, to sort of, reach out to Bill to reassure him, much as James tries to do in the clip, that this is not his fault, that the Leave voters are not idiots, they are not racists, they were doing what they thought was best, but had been persuaded to act against their own interests by men with agendas of their own, political, personal and financial agendas. Very unscrupulous people have persuaded them to act against their own interests. I wanted to basically, try and reach out to Bill in my own weird way and try and reassure him to that end. But also on a sort of slightly less altruistic level, we need to get people like Bill on board our movement, because the ex-leavers, if you like, the repentant leavers can make our case in ways and in places in which it might not otherwise be heard. Such has been the schismatic effect of this whole Brexit shambles, that both sides are now inherently very distrusting of each other, and our side is as guilty of this as the opposition. So we need people who can bridge that gap, and certainly from our end of the equation, that's the ex-leavers, that's who we need, people like Bill, we need to get them on board. So wasn't being entirely selfless in this respect. So I started to write the song, and I knew that the song needed to have sections. I knew it needed to be like a segmented kind of tripartite thing. It had to have a kind of a plaintive opening, and then an angry middle section, and then an uplifting finale. And as I'm trying to write this song, this wasn't in my mind when I started trying to write it, started putting it, piecing the sections together on the computer. I found myself thinking, this is turning into Queen, isn't it? I mean, I guess it's kind of inevitable. Queen were, great at writing those kind of segmented little miniature rock operas. And also, Queen's been kind of on everybody's mind just recently, very much my own. I mean, I took the kids to see the movie. My thoughts on the movie are recorded in a previous video. Go and have a look for it. But in the weeks up to going to see the movie, every time I had the kids in the car, I'm sticking Greatest Hits #1 on the stereo to familiarise them with more of the back catalogue. So Queen were very much everybody's thoughts. So I just thought, oh, sod it, why fight it? Here we go. Yeah, let's do Queen. Let's have another 11 guitar tracks. Let's have another 12 vocal tracks. And my computer was kind of starting to smoke by the end of it. But even after I finished the song, I wasn't really sure what kind of direction to go in with the video. And then I had another little revelation. You see, I already knew that I was going to incorporate a sound clip of Bill's phone call at the beginning of the song over that long piano intro, which is why that long piano intro is there. And it was only after I added that in and I listened back to it, I suddenly thought, I have to play James. Because initially I wasn't sure what I was going to do visually for that bit. Maybe have like a still image. I didn't want to use an actual video clip of the call, although of course that is available on YouTube. I thought, no, I have to play James. Because I'm actually not a bad match for James O'Brien. If you were trying to cast somebody as James O'Brien in a movie, you could actually do a lot worse than me. When we're not dissimilar types. I mean, we're about the same age. I think I'm like 12 months older. We're both sort of slightly irascible middle-class white blokes at the arse end of our 40s with not entirely intact hairlines. And I thought, yeah, and that actually, I can see that working quite well. I can use the green screen to kind of mock up his studio. Well, talk about the videos being sellotape and string. Sometimes it is literally sellotape and literally string. I've just been spending about 5 minutes drawing the LBC logo in marker. And the only black marker I could find was a whiteboard marker, so it's a bit blurry, but it should be okay. Because I'm going to wrap it around the microphone, which is in front of me, because I've looked at the clips of James, and he sits in front of a big LBC logo, which we will add in via the green screen. But there's a little LBC logo on a kind of white band wrapped around his mic. So I've drawn this now, and now I'm going to sellotape it around my microphone. So yeah, quite literally sellotape and string sometimes. And yeah, that actually, and then what then happens is the video itself becomes almost like a dream sequence. It becomes like James wishing he could cheer Bill up more, and almost imagining himself turning into Queen, because who would be better for giving you a kick in the pants and lifting you up than Freddie Mercury and Queen? So, and then also that, once that idea had clarified, it also then defined how far I did or didn't have to go in terms of dressing up. Because I thought, I don't want to sort of try and do full drag up as all 4 members of Queen, or 4 classic members of Queen. Deaky's been off the radar for about 15 years now, and apparently he's living in Putney with his money, and so say all of us. So I've done the Freddie bit, and now I'm going to do the John Deacon bit. It's kind of weird to know what to put on when you're trying to evoke John Deacon, because he sort of never, of all of them, is the one who never really had a particularly static image. One of the things that the film does actually get right is that John Deacon spent the whole of the 1970s and 80s experimenting with literally every different haircut known to science, and never ever found one that actually suited him. But yeah, given that he's generally thought of as being the most conservative of all of them, or certainly the sort of the least kind of eccentric, least kind of demonstrative, I'm going to wear a black suit jacket and a black t-shirt. Of course, the weird thing is, scrape my hair back, and with the beard and dressing like this, I actually look nothing like John and Deacon, but quite a lot like John Entwistle, which is kind of weird. And I should be pretending to play this old bass, which I inherited from my sister back in the 90s. It is a piece of Argos shite that John Deacon would never be seen dead playing, but it is a precision copy. He did used to play precisions. And mind you, now I've said that, John Deacon won't really be seen dead anywhere at the moment, really. So anyway, let's crack on. Good old Deaky, one take as usual. But I thought that meant that there just had to be kind of a suggestion rather than sort of, full on hair and makeup. Obviously, I had to get the Brian May wig. That was the only thing I bought for this production, was the wig. Everything else was stuff I already owned. Okay, it's time. We are Brianing up. White shirts and black waistcoat is a sort of a recognised look for Brian. It's not the only thing he wears by any stretch of the imagination. I've got a red guitar. It's not the red guitar, but I have a red guitar. The only thing I don't have is a curly guitar cable. That would have been a good thing to get hold of. I don't know if anybody does curly guitar cables anymore. But speaking of curly, yeah, I suppose I could have gone for the contemporary Brian. Look, I love Brian's hair these days. He basically looks like Isaac Newton. Brian May, since his hair went white, now actually has the hair that 17th century gentlemen all used to pretend to have, But I figured if we're sort of, if it's Freddie era Queen, we need to go with classic Brian. So yes, off to the joke shop in Sheen. For the extra large afro wig. I almost felt required to explain to the staff that I didn't want this for anything racist. But okay, let's see how we do, shall we? Brian, if you're out there, I am so sorry. But it also meant that I didn't have to take the beard off, because I thought, no, this is not me pretending to be Queen. This is me pretending to be James, dreaming of being Queen. You see what I mean? Oh, so many levels. But that's quite a relief, because I didn't want to take the beard off if it's all possible. Not because I have any problem taking my beard off. I'm not sort of militantly bearded, and I can generally grow it back in about 2 weeks. It's not that big a deal. The point is that I did take it off at the beginning of the summer for a video I did for a song called Alternative Right, where I played a whole bunch of characters who are actual real world characters, and some of whom don't have beards, so I had to take the beard off. And I didn't mind, but my youngest Astrid really minded. It really freaked her out, and fortunately, almost immediately thereafter, I went off up to Edinburgh, and she didn't see me for about 2.5 weeks. So by the time she saw me again, the beard was pretty much back. So yeah, I didn't want to take it off again if I didn't have to. So yeah, you've got a Brian May with a scraggly greyish beard, which I know is not particularly authentic, but it kind of works within the meta reality of the video as it stands. So I shot this video entirely by myself. My girlfriend Leslie was around at the time and was offering to help out if I needed anything, but I actually managed to do the whole thing by myself, just with equipment I've already got. The green screen I already had. I bought that a few months ago, and the stand it goes on. The camera is my phone. I edited it. I did this one on my laptop. The simpler videos I edit on my iPad, but the version of iMovie on the iPad doesn't do green screening, so I've got to use the slightly more complex version on my laptop. It is actually amazing what you can now do just with the stuff that most people already own. I mean, I'm very fortunate in that regard, in that all this technology is now available, and never cease to be impressed by how good this stuff ends up looking. You know, these videos look like I've spent a bit of money on them, but it's just me in my living room with a green sheet. That's literally all it is. It is weird, is it not, when you're doing this kind of dressing up, how little you have to do to actually make the difference. I mean, this is going to be the Roger look, white shirt with the collar popped. I've no idea where I got that image from, but for some reason I'm fairly sure I've seen him wearing a white shirt with the collar popped, and it saves hassle because it's the same shirt I was wearing as Brian. And what I've done is, much as I did with the Steve Bannon bits in the alternative right video, I've just filled my hair full of dry shampoo, and it's made it go kind of grey blonde, which seems appropriate. So I'm going to keep these shades on. So I want to talk you through how I did the drum sequence, because I don't have a drum kit. Well, actually, I kind of have two, but they're both electronic. The electronic drums that we use with the band and that Ivan plays at Distraction Club, I look after those. They live in my shed, but they're an electronic drum kit. And Astrid is learning the drums and has a little set of Rolands set up in her bedroom. Doesn't look like anything you'd ever find Roger Taylor playing. So what I did is I found a picture of a rather shiny looking set of DW drums in an online drum catalogue. And I took that picture and ran it through an app called Pixelmator, which is like a sort of cheap version of Photoshop, and replaced the white background with a green background. So now what I've got is essentially a mat of a drum kit. If I use that as a green screen overlay, all the green will disappear and be replaced by whatever's underneath it. So to go underneath it, I shot me sitting on a chair in front of my green sheet, miming playing the drums in thin air. And before I did that, I tried to line up the shot so it would kind of mat in with the angle that the drums have been photographed in. So looking at the photo of the drums, I worked out that the camera was at about the same level as the top of the kick drum. And so I put the phone at about the height of the top of the kick drum and rotated my chair to about the same kind of angle that the drums are at in the picture, and then just mimed playing the drums in front of this green sheet, having sprayed my hair white and put a pair of shades on. I used that image with me on the chair in front of the green screen to mat in an image I got from a free image site of rock concert stage lighting. So that then appears behind me. So then what you've got is a shot of me sitting on a chair playing invisible drums with stage lighting behind me, and then used all of that as the background to overlay the picture of the drums on, and sort of, slid them around in the frame until it lined up. And I'm actually really pleased with how it's turned out. I think at first glance, it looks like I'm playing a rather expensive set of DWs. I think as the shot comes back later on in the video, you can tell that I'm sitting behind a photo of some drums. But the thing about these videos is they're not meant to look like I've had the effects done in a proper effects house. It's just enough to give you the suspension of disbelief. So that's how I did the Song for Bill video. All told, about 4 days work, I think, because actually writing and recording the song took longer than usual. That took a couple of days just in and of itself. And then shooting the video was a day and a bit of shooting, and then the rest of the day to edit it. But yeah, it's not bad for 4 days work. I'm quite pleased with it. Anyway, thanks for watching this, and I'll see you soon.
This video was made possible by the supporters of my Patreon project, who help me make fun things while receiving great perks and rewards. If you enjoyed it, why not follow the link and join us?